Hello, I'm David R. Jones of the Community Service Society. In the months since the attacks on the World Trade Center, many New Yorkers have come together to help those in need. On today's edition of the Urban Agenda, we'll meet volunteers, social service professionals, and some people now being assisted. Let's begin with two CSS volunteers, Florence Parker and Mike Takacs, and a New Yorker whose life has been greatly disrupted by the events of September 11th, Edgar Felix, who worked at the Millennium Hilton Hotel at the World Trade Center. A special thanks to all of you for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Florence, I'll start with you. You've been seeing clients as a volunteer for quite a while now.
Yes.
How long have you been with the program?
About 5.5 years.
Right. And what kind of work have you been doing generally before 9/11?
Before 9/11, I was seeing clients who needed help, who wanted to make a new start perhaps in life, some people who were handicapped, senior citizens, but all people who come for the same purpose. They need to be assisted in whatever way we can.
And after 9/11, I think things have changed somewhat.
Well, after 9/11, we don't see as many of the clients because not too many are coming, although they're beginning to come back now.
Right.
But after 9/11, when we started seeing those people who were affected by the tragedy, they're a different group in many ways, and yet they're similar, because when they come, they all need help.
Right.
And they're looking for some financial assistance. They're looking for assistance for their children. They're looking for all kinds of things that they can attain through our help.
Right. Now, Mike, you're seeing people at Pier 94, actually the initial reception center for people who were injured or got displaced, lost their jobs because of 9/11. What's it been like at Pier 94, and how long have you been volunteering there?
Well, I've been volunteering there for about 8 weeks,
Right.
and what's it like? It's always busy.
Right.
From the time we open, now we open at 9, we go 9 to 5, and it's a long day, but there's no break. There's always,
Really?
always people to see.
Do you you take the break? Because this can become extraordinarily
I take a
wearing.
break.
You do, for sure.
Definitely, definitely. I wouldn't.
And over those 8 weeks, have you seen changes in the kind of people who are coming into you to seek help?
A lot of changes. In the beginning, we had people who were directly in the buildings, and many of them they had to escape from the buildings and stuff. So during the interview, you give them a chance to talk about it, and for many of them, it's the only time they had a chance to talk, because a lot of other people don't want to hear it.
Really, the people, it's just too much for them.
Right, so that they talk to me, during the interview, and we try to, if they need more help, we try to get them a mental health worker who's nearby.
I'm sure it's hard because no one want, I think it's still hard in our culture to accept that you got shook up enough that you have to get some help.
Right.
So, and as it's now moved on for the 8 weeks, what kind of people are coming in and who are you helping?
Well, the workers that are coming in now, mostly the lower paid workers who would be working generally around the World Trade Center, who were laid off because their restaurants or something were closed because of it, no customers, or maybe they were wrecked.
Right.
So they're coming in now, and many of them are undocumented, and many of them do not speak English, so we have to rely on the translators that we have.
Must be quite something. And how long have you been a volunteer? Or even before 9?
Well, for CSS, only since the spring.
Well, Edgar.
Yes.
You're somebody who was working at one of the hotels. That's right. The Millennium Hilton was literally right across the street.
That's correct.
And what's left of it? Do you know?
Well, basically, it's they stated to us that it's still structurally sound.
Right.
There's a lot of windows broken, and there was dust all over the place, debris. So they had to go in there and actually get some access and clean everything up.
Right.
I think they're still in that process. So as we speak, they're thinking about reopening, hopefully in the near future. But first, they have to take care of ground zero first and clean the debris and everything else.
And what work were you doing at
I was a
Millennium?
houseman. I used to take care of the guests and make sure that they were properly coming inside, going outside, being courteous, cleaning, vacuuming, Doing little things like that, of that nature.
And this was a luxury hotel.
Yes, it was. Millennium Hilton is basically our clients are corporate accounts, and
Right.
it's a very beautiful hotel. Yes.
And how many years did you work there?
About 3 years.
And when you came to work with us, what specifically were you coming for to get help with?
Well, basically, financial needs, immediate assistance needs for my family. You know, we're talking about close to 40,000, 35 with overtime and everything else, income.
That's lost.
Exactly. That's a big loss, extraordinary loss. So they're helping me out with my immediate needs. It's been very helpful with all different organizations.
Right.
Yes.
And what are your immediate plans? Is the hotel?
That's a good question.
Yeah, no. I mean, in terms of all the people who
well,
are not
considering
coming back.
the mental health aspect, thank God that I really have put my mind together and don't really need that.
Yeah.
But my situation is different. I'm thinking about several things. I'm thinking about going back to school, either waiting for my hotel to reopen. I'm not the type to stand around and actually keep collecting from unemployment.
Right.
There's so many options that I have. There's so much time that I have on my hands. I'm taking care of my daughter more now. You know, I'm loving my daughter more now. I'm like hugging her, thanking God that we're still alive and well. And I want to thank all the Americans. They have a big heart, you know, and to making sure that we survive and we can succeed over this. And
yeah. Have you been in contact with your fellow employees?
Yes, they call me all the time. They ask me, Edgar, where should I go? What should I do?
Right.
What agency are helping? You know, and I'm like, oh, you know, just hang tight, relax, don't go crazy. And, you know, things will work out. God has its place.
Right. On the day of the attack, were you at work? Or?
Yeah, that morning I was at work. It's interesting because I usually get my coffee across the street, but at 8:30 I go in, I start working, and as soon as I saw that explosion, I told my boss, I'm going home. I'm not hanging around. He actually wanted me to go back inside, but I said, no, I think I'd rather go home. Uniform and all, I just took the other train on the other side of town and went home.
Right.
So thank God everybody got out safe from my hotel, though, yes.
So
Unfortunately, the Marriott, which is in our local Union 6, some of them got, I guess, gone. But it's a sad thing.
Yeah. Now, Florence, you've been, in terms of your work, you've been advising clients. Give us some examples of the kind of individual who's come in.
Are we talking about the 9/11
Yeah,
people?
the 9/11 people. Yeah.
Well, I have found many of them, as my friend there said, they want to talk about it.
Right.
They like to talk about the things. Many of them come in, and some are quite traumatized. They really can't quite get it through to themselves that this has occurred. And I think the majority of them would really want to go back to work if there was a place they would go to work. But we're very grateful. I think that with the unemployment that some of them are getting, and of course the undocumented ones are the ones that are having more of a problem. But all the others who belong to a union, who were documented people, are able to move on in a better fashion. But we try to be as warm and make the people as comfortable as we can. And we do have someone on the staff in our particular office who speaks Spanish, so there's no problem with that. And we try to do the best that we can. That's all that we can do. We try to help with the mortgage, even in tuition. If they owe credit card, we try to pay the minimum. We try to do all these things, but of course, we can't do it until we have that document that shows the connection to the 9/11 tragedy. Once that letter is produced, and we find that the people we have been calling to get some of these letters, the Millennium and the Union, et cetera, they've been very, very cooperative, sending in the proper documentation.
How onerous is it, Edgar, to get people to respond? I mean, has it been real difficult to get through and try to get people to focus on your issues, or and how does that work? How difficult it is, to go through this?
It's kind of difficult. I mean, it's a patient, it's a waiting game, basically. If you have all your documents and you come in correct, and you were affected by the disaster in the World Trade Center, they tend to you quickly.
Right.
We have, mind you, we have people from all states here, Illinois, Chicago, you know, trying to help you out here,
Right.
which is outstanding. But some organizations are helping better than others. You know, like FEMA, I had a problem with them. They transferred me over to different representatives. They always gave me a wrong answer. The eligibility requirements weren't the same. You know,
hard to navigate.
right? So it's hard to get around with them. But other agencies, they get you in, they get you out. It's a wonderful feeling. At the same time, you don't want to feel neglected. At the same time, you want to feel safe.
Well, we have been able to see to our people within 2 to 3 days that they do receive their checks.
Right.
And this has been a boon for them. And it's a wonderful way of doing
Actually,
it.
I think that's where, you know, organizations like CSS and some of the others, the private charities, can be a little quicker. Once we can move quicker, we don't have quite the bureaucracy.
That's true.
That makes it a little easier, so I think that's one of our roles. Now, at Pier 94, are the lines snaking out the door? Are there just so many people trying to get information that it becomes impossible sometimes?
Well, there are lines.
There are lines.
Right. Particularly on our side, it's now divided into
Well, this is
two
New
parts.
York. I mean, we all...
You wait online.
The pier is now divided into two parts, one section for the families and one section for displaced workers and displaced residents.
Right.
And there are lines. And I think they're trying to work on something, because at one point last week, or earlier this week, they were waiting several hours outside.
That's too much.
You know, and it's been cold, so... but they're working on getting people into the building faster.
Right.
And we work, I can't say how, you know, we can't work faster.
No.
Because, but we have a lot of volunteers.
Right.
And we're seeing people. And, you know, with one thing, I'm with Safe Horizon, and the people leave with a check that day.
They do. They're able to turn around very fast.
So that, you know, they're more patient with us.
Oh, of course.
Because, you know, you're going to walk out with something. You know,
Let me just take, what is the best thing about this experience been for you over the last 8 weeks?
I think I appreciate what I have more, because I see what other people don't have. You know, and I find it all very gratifying, and I really like helping the people, and I really feel bad if we can't help somebody. I feel bad about it.
And that's the worst part of this as well? What would be your, just not being able to help every time?
Right, that's the worst part. You know, somebody comes in and you really want to help them, but either they're not within our guidelines, or they don't have the paperwork, and you really work for, you could work for hours trying to get a paper trail, and when you just can't, you know, you feel very frustrated.
Edgar, one of the things I've noticed is I come from an old union family, and I've never seen unions turn so quick to help. And how has it been in terms of your
With
union
our
advocate?
local, yes, our local has been outstanding. They've been extending our benefits, medical benefits, to a year.
Okay.
That was important to me and my
Sure.
family. They've given us checks every week for like the next 10 weeks. They have a fund also that they're collecting to distribute to families sometime near December or something like that.
Yeah.
So they've been wonderful. They've been referring us to other agencies to help us out. So I've got no complaints.
And
with my union.
anyone who has trouble with unions, this is the time. I mean, obviously,
Definitely.
this was really an important time. To be unaffiliated with anything, this is a tough time to be in, but going forward.
But I think most people hold out a helping hand
Yes,
now.
they do.
I have seen things of somebody just helping another person cross the street, which you didn't see
true.
so often. I think people are more concerned now with the well-being of each other, and that we sort of are able to get along and live together again.
Yeah, well,
I
it's
think
been
that's part of
striking.
it.
Though it feels very strange still in the city. I don't know about you, but the city changed obviously so
Absolutely.
dramatically.
America has changed, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what really brings up a good point in the whole situation. The money's not the issue. It's the people getting together. You know, the people wanting to give. That's what really, you know, gives me glory.
But we hope that it'll continue even past this, that we continue to understand that we need one another, and you know that we have to work together.
Now, Mike, I hear they're ultimately Pier 94 will cease operations.
That's right.
Are you going to be volunteering with Safe Horizons after that? How are you going to? What are your plans?
Well,
we can't let you go now.
I have to look at what their needs are,
right?
You know, and look at what where I could fit in either with Safe Horizon or CSS.
I assure you will find a place. I mean, RSVP and the Senior Volunteer is one of the most satisfying programs that the Community Service Society has. I think it obviously is one of the real major contributions to the city of New York.
Well, it's a hands-on group, and that's important.
Well, there are 9,500 of you. And
well, it's hands-on.
I meet people who have worked their entire lives and they still want to put in more. It's really gratifying. In some ways, I talk to people of my age and younger. This is the exemplar of what you have to do in New York going forward. Thank you all very much. It has been a wonderful time talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all my guests. We'll be back to continue our program right after this.
You don't have to like me.
Or you can.
You don't have to run with me.
You really don't have to run away from me.
And we're not all that different.
I like good food. Good music. I want a good job.
I want my kids to live in a world
where they are safe and loved.
And respected for who they are.
You don't have to like me, but if you talk to me,
you might.
We can end prejudice if we talk to each other. Call.
Tell us what you'd do.
Together we can build one America.
Joining me now are two CSS colleagues, Deborah Cutler, the Director of Training in our Public Benefits and Resource Center, and Natasha Baptiste, a CSS Case Manager. Deborah, why don't we talk to our viewers about what public benefits are?
Sure. Public benefits are essentially services that are there for people to help them meet basic needs such as medical assistance like Medicaid and Medicare, or food assistance such as food stamps, or even cash assistance for people who are disabled like their retirement benefits or Social Security disability benefits, or supplemental security income.
It's not only federal benefits. It's
not only federal benefits. There's federal benefits, there's state benefits, and then there's even local benefits.
Well, tell us about your program, the Public Benefits Resource Center.
Sure. PBRC primarily provides information to social service providers as well as individuals on government benefit programs. There are so many programs available for people out there. And because they're available on the federal, state, and local level, it can be very confusing and often difficult for people to access them.
So who would be sort of the person or groups that come to us for this kind of help?
Well, PBRC provides information to people in many ways. Social service providers who are doing direct service to low-income people or disabled people or the elderly need information on how to assist their constituents. And so those groups will come to us for training or publications on these programs so that they can help navigate the system for them. And again, as well as individuals who need help filling out applications directly or just don't even know what they're entitled to.
Now, since the World Trade Center attack, have we changed our trainings? Have things changed for us too?
Sure, things have changed dramatically. Right. A lot of programs became available, and certain programs that were already available were changing what was available to help meet the demand. So, for example, currently over 90,000 people have applied for disaster relief Medicaid. They eased up on the Medicaid rules so that a lot more people can get medical assistance. And so although that's available for a short time, it's really an important benefit for people to access while they're in this time of obviously losing a job till they get another job. They might be out of medical insurance.
Though you have to be very low income to really be eligible for Medicaid.
You still have to be low income to be eligible, although these guidelines are a little bit higher than your typical Medicaid guidelines, and there are no resource limits. So where a person might have some resources, if they're out of work now or on unemployment, if they have family, they might be eligible.
Now, Natasha, you're seeing individuals. You're helping some of the people who have been hurt in the World Trade Center. And and who have been displaced. Can you tell us about your work now with people?
Yeah, well, work in Department of Social Service, and it's been really great. And one of the things that, well, some of the things I should say that we're seeing with the clients, our services kind of changed as well. We definitely changed to meet the needs, you know, the immediate financial needs. And just, you know, the other day, this gentleman came into the office, and he actually came in for financial services, but he was crying during the interview process. And I asked what was the situation, and he said that he had lost his uncle in the Trade Center. He had been talking with him on the cell phone, and the building went down, and he was very close to his uncle. And you know, so from there we just kind of talked, and I referred him to a mental health center in his area, so then he can get the help he need. And it was really great because he came back in yesterday, and he was like, "Thank you so much," because you know, it really helped. You know, his financial needs were being met, and so was his mental health needs.
It's interesting. I think many people who were not on the site but lost someone even somewhat remote, who wasn't an immediate family member, are going to be resonating with this for months and years to come. And sometimes the attitude towards these kinds of supportive services, many people say, "Oh, I don't need that." But I think clearly the mental health element of this is something that still goes unnoticed for many. But in terms of the kinds of benefits we can provide people, what kind of help? I mean, this was a very immediate kind of support. What else can we do to help people?
Well, as a whole, we're assisting people with rent assistance, mortgage, utilities, food. You know, it basically depends on the individuals, what they need, and we try our very best to meet those needs. You know?
Now, they can't just come in and say, "I'm in need." They have to.
No.
I don't want to make it too easy for people, but what would they have to do as this engagement begins?
The process.
For instance, how would they first come to us, for instance?
Well, basically get, I guess it would be a screening. You know, they call they give us their information, and someone will call them. A case manager usually calls them back to set up an appointment, and then we do an intake interview.
Now, before they come in, aren't they supposed to get some documents together to bring in?
Yeah, well, during the conversation with the client, the case manager will usually let them know you need to bring in whatever documents you're seeking assistance with, you know, whether it's rent, mortgage, and we expect them to bring the originals of those bills. And, you know, during the interview process, we try to find out if the bills are things that we can help them with. You know, if it's too much, if it's, you know, there are certain things that we can't, but whatever we can, we're able to assist them, and the process is relatively easy. You know, it's just, it's been really good.
Well, how about case managers? How are you holding up to this? You hear story after story of all these people going through trauma. How are we holding? I'm only being partially. How are people taking this?
Well,
you're working with people every day who have a lot of trouble.
We try to keep it light around the office, but as a whole, it's the days from 9 o'clock to 5. It's packed. You know, sometimes we have to remind ourselves it's lunchtime. You know, because it's nonstop. But just being able to meet the needs, I think, is really fulfilling for everyone in the department. So.
Deborah, we're also doing some direct service work out of your department as well.
Yeah, we are. We're helping out social services through use of volunteers that are trained through the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, another department in CSS. So those folks have a lot of volunteers that we already use for entitlement counseling have added lots of hours on. Other volunteers who are located at different sites have joined CSS in coming to our site to help meet the demand that's out there. So yeah, we've had a lot of volunteers there as well as staff who are serving.
And the volunteers' experience has been something that has been good for them and good for the clients, or how has it gone?
Yeah, most of the volunteers were very excited after the disaster to say, what is CSS doing? And it really wasn't even a question that they would get involved in this. They all wanted to. They all wanted to add the additional time on. And staff as well have just sort of jumped in and done what they needed to do to help.
Now, Natasha, tell me about your caseload. How many calls are we getting a day?
Oh my gosh. Well, anywhere from 40 to 50 calls per day.
40 or 50 a day?
In one afternoon, we actually got 70 calls.
And how many people can we see in a day?
Well, each case manager, we try to see 4 people per day. But like I said, you know, some people kind of show up with, you know, so it ends up being like 10, 15 maybe. So it's something to see.
I think there, and the kind of people, obviously you see people who both lost people and tell me a little bit about sort of, as the cases you see, what would be the standard problem that comes up?
Well, basically, we see people who are in like need right now. I have my mortgage is 2 months behind. You know, someone else was supposed to assist them. They didn't get it. You know, my utilities are 2 months behind. If you can help me, different socioeconomical background. You know, nothing.
And language problems for some of them?
Well, we're really blessed that we have Spanish-speaking people on staff because a lot of the clientele is Spanish. But we muddle through and we get by. You know.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Deborah. My thanks to all of our guests today. These are indeed difficult times for many New Yorkers. Thankfully, there are programs and services now in place to ease the pain. In fact, our entire view of public benefits has been changed. People who had never had to before are now reaching out to social service agencies and government programs as our city and nation try to share the burden of this tragedy. I'm David R. Jones of the Community Service Society. Thank you for joining us for the Urban Agenda.
To comment on the Urban Agenda or for more information on CSS, contact Community Service Society of New York, 105 East 22nd Street, New York, New York, 10010. Area code 212-254-8900.